What we're going to do today is I'll give you, when we come back after we do a little bit of eating, I'll give you an update on the stuff that's been going on this summer, keep it down to 10-15. Pinky swear. And then we'll get right to Keith, and because what I got to say, Jeff, what happened? Building up to what Keith has to say, and we'll get right to it then. Before we get going, Pat wanted to make an announcement real quick.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate it. Next, this coming, hey, John? This coming Thursday night, 13th anniversary of 9/11, which of course me and a lot of other people believe is an inside job. At ASU, 7 o'clock, Memorial Union, room 230. It's going to get filmed brand new out from Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. It's called Anatomy of a Great Deception. I've been trying to find out if there's a required fee. I think it's donation only, but a bunch of lefties like me run the show, so of course you can't get any proper information. It's probably, again, donation only. It's going to be a great film, and I really hope that as many people as possible can get there. It's right off of the light rail. If you don't know where it is, it's like halfway between Rural and McClintock and halfway between University and Apache Boulevard. It'd be great to see some folks there. And I'd like Ernie to say something about an announcement I just saw on Freedom Saints about the death of, was it Beulah or Burl, somebody died? Burl. Really? Thank you, folks. Thank you.
Yeah. I can't mix it up, Beulah and Burl, so I just want to make sure I get the right person that died. Beulah had been attending the older woman that lived up at Grand Canyon City. Okay, I'm Black Canyon City. She passed last month. We went to her service, and Breakfast Club was represented there, and a lot of members of her family and church and so on. And she led an interesting life. You know, there's so many. When I first started going to the Breakfast Club, a lot of you guys that are new, the Breakfast Club's been around over 40 years. Now, it's been a long time. And all you newbies, you gotta take the platinum. You gotta sing. Yeah, we gotta sing. All right, well, let's see what we'll do. Hail, hail, the gang's all here. Morning breakfast clubbers, morning breakfast clubbers. Chow, 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 all one chow. That is what we're here for now. Okay, we don't have to do a whole bunch of other stuff. Anyways, tradition, okay? For 40-something years, you know, we had old Harry Everingham, been around since the 60s, man. He always did the chow thing, you know, so we got to bring that on. Gene took it over for a while, you know, kept it alive, and then we started doing it. I tell you, the thing with the Breakfast Club, if you didn't go to the Breakfast Club, you didn't know what really was going on behind the scenes. And then the internet came. When the internet started in really getting going in the late 90s up to about 2004, during that time, a lot of people got their information from Gene, seriously. They got their information from the internet, but then they started finding out that you were lacking something. You were lacking context, people behind it, the emotion behind it, you know, the kind of social networking way it used to be before now they co-opted the term. And then when you start, Gene, seriously. So what happened is that when we started doing the Breakfast Club started rising up again in attendance, and we started having, this has kind of been off for the summer, doing different things. Normally it went from, I think, like September to May. And we kind of try and keep it going, and it was every Saturday. And now we're trying to the first Saturday of each month and try and keep it going around the clock, around the calendar. And what we have is maybe we'll miss 2 or 3 depending on when they fall on, like if it's 4th of July or New Year's Eve and that kind of thing. So what we're going to do is kind of start it up again. This is an important presentation today. And it kind of launches into what we're going to be talking about for the next year. And we have the election cycle coming up, so that means October's got to be, we're all going to die, and, you know, they're going to save us. And then, you know, after November, we just died, and, you know, and the eulogy. And then, you know, but I've been going through this so many times, it's always the same. The problem that I see that's going on is always about where can you go to be free. The freedom was always the goal. I just want to go to the leave me alone state of wherever the heck, okay? Now, we have a lot of people in here very involved, represent different, perspectives. It's good to see Jeff Greenspan here. A lot of people, that probably know who Jeff is, but he was the Southwest coordinator for Ron Paul's campaign in 08 and 12, or did something in 12. You're kind of around there. You're part of the cloud or whatever. So there's a perspective there. A lot of people from the meetup, a lot of people, that have been doing some active preparing. We have the Prepper Fest, which is going to be at Westworld here in Scottsdale, like the last weekend of October, like the 25th, 26th in there. It's the third year and it's getting really big. So you'll have hundreds, if not more, tables of just presenters, vendors and so on it's like a big gun show without guns, and it has really about sustaining yourself. Last weekend, we had a young girl, 26, from Finland, and everybody in Europe speaks English. I mean, if you're under 40, you speak English, this is the way it is. She came to America on a 3-month grant that she got from her university, doing her master's thesis on why America is prepping. Now, her perspective in Finland, they go, hey man, we got 3 months of something grows, we're always prepping, okay? She goes, I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about, So, but they are like northern Alaska. That is the climate that they're in. Part of Finland is above the Arctic Circle where it's dark the whole year. I mean, the whole winter. So, what happened, she got the grant, she came to California, went to Northern California, Utah, Idaho, Arizona, and in the last week, she spent with us. She met with Chad Hudspeth from EndlessFoodSystems.com. Endless Food Systems were the aquaponics guys. Now what he's done, he was so impressed with the aquaponics, is that he had a company, made some cash, had some dimes to rub together, and he created a company that would make units of aquaponics systems that you could ship on pallets. That was his goal. So he has everything that he has. If you ship it on a 4x4 pallet, then he's your guy. Accessible by 4 directions on forklifts, kind of go and boom and done. So everything now, what he just did is he took ABS plastic, this kind of black plastic you see molded in everything from holsters to Q-tips, whatever. What he did is he created his own heating element that then goes down and it vacuum molds to anything that he wants. So he started making his own components because the tubs that he did, it was by the shipping to and from and it's like $100 a tub. He has gotten a system that cost him $2,500 his cost down to under $1,000 now. So all of a sudden you're pushing a button, here we go. We did the aquaponics, the aquadome. We made geodesic domes that we put it in because I just thought it was cool and I knew how to do it and I kind of worked well. That is becoming very popular. They want me to start mass producing those. I've spent a couple $1,000s on equipment and so on to kind of do it. Those that come over for the swim party this afternoon, you'll see. Shelton is been moved back to Kansas City and he's here visiting. So we're having a pool party this afternoon. You all are invited. So it's just the original Evolution activist kind of party. What you doing? What's up? And kind of just chilling. Last pool party of the season. And you can just see the stuff.
What time?
Oh, you're not invited. It's I don't know, Donna, was it 1, 2?
Anytime.
Yeah, whatever. It's a libertarian thing. So of course, Pat's always liberal. Anyway, we had everybody. So what we've done is by creating the system, Brian and Mike have created a horizontal airlift pumping kind of system that uses a lot less electricity. We're putting in a sand filter. We just keep adding to this thing, and it's getting to where my goal was not so much as much food as I could produce, which is, a lot. I wanted to be able to produce food. It's how easy I could do it. Homie don't want to do nothing. okay? I mean, I want to get it all, I'll put all the work into setting it up, and then it's like, I might go check it every year or so. I mean, I just want to go out and, I want to eat. So it's really getting to where it's starting to produce and doing really well. Bob Anderson, the Tonopah guy, now for those of you who don't know, Robert Anderson, a good friend of mine, been activist since the early 90s. We were the young guys doing this stuff. He is a supervisor out the nuclear power plant that changes the fuel, the refueling guy. Well, he moved out there so he didn't have to commute. He's just a few miles from the plant, so I guess he's confident. So he lives out there in Tonopah, lots of water out there. You're in the desert, you got solar, water. Solar power is, when he was paying $4.50 and thought he was getting a deal, $4.50 a watt to produce power, it's down to 32 cents now. Full, name brand, sharp, big panels, everything. They have a will call warehouse on 43rd Avenue, south of Camelback, and you order it on the internet, you go pick it up by the pallet, 32 cents a watt. Those of you that don't know, let me tell you, that is ridiculously given away cheap, okay? That means your entire house, but that's the reason why they're giving, you don't have to pay anything down, we'll hook up your house for solar and you never have to pay a bill, blah, 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 blah. But it's a $20,000, $25,000 deal that you can do yourself for $5. I mean, it is getting no electric bill, $5,000 forever and always. I'm going, okay. Now, if I can feed myself, I got an electric car. My battery in my electric car is my battery bank for my house doing, then I don't have electric. All of a sudden, you're starting to extract yourself from the grid. So all this political stuff that everybody's talking about, we got to get somebody to free us. We're going to vote for somebody to make it where it's not so bad. We're going to have somebody else do something for us because we can't do it. We're just we're going to cry, okay? But if all of a sudden you're able to feed yourself, provide a high standard of living, you got your own energy, and your transportation is taken care of with the sun, all of a sudden a whole bunch of other stuff starts to open up. And it opened with the satellite communications and all kinds of other stuff. All of a sudden, everything that I do, I'm able to do out in the middle of the freaking desert. Now, there's many, but the first thing, what do you have to be off the grid? And off the grid, I mean, at least, water. Water is always, now there's a lot more water in Arizona than people realize. You're out in Tonopah, I mean, it's the middle of a freaking desert, there is an ocean underneath. There's an ocean underneath us now. But they say, you can, it's polluted, you're not allowed, and it has to be municipal polluted, or we had some pollution and you get polluted, okay? And it's certified stroke polluted, right? So then we go buy a bottle of water anyway. So I'm going, seriously. Out at Tonopah, it is sweet. I mean, this stuff is awesome. For 12 years I've been drinking this stuff, a friend of mine has out there. Now, they have farms out there where they got 12-inch lines just pumping, big pumps, and it just spews out water 24/7. The reason is because agriculture is such a big deal out there. You can get land and it's ruled agricultural. So there's a guy out there named Tonopah Rob that for 18 years has been farming in the desert. He keeps expanding it. Well, it's gotten to the point where it's all organic. He doesn't use anything. He does his pesticides by what kind of flowers around different fields at one height to attract the assassin bugs and get the other bugs, killing bugs for the birds of the bugs, okay? And he's got it to where it's all organic. He's doing a really good job out there. So when Laura with a Finnish accent, Laura came and she wanted to go and see how you can cultivate the desert. So we went out and spent the day and night over at Bob's. We went to Tonopah. Rob showed her that. She got to do some shooting. Oh my God, that AR-15 and women, man, they love that thing. Okay, so you do that, and she's all woo. And I've done this before. Women from Europe and everything, they go and immediately put it on their Facebook, and then the guys in black come visit. So I warned her. I said, look, you might not want to put this on your Facebook. So then she went and saw Tonopah Rob, started to see the bees and the production, and he's putting in aquaponics because he has to bring in, has to do all this composting and so on that he does. And all of a sudden he sees, starts hearing about it. We're showing it to him. He takes an entire Quonset hut that's probably the size of the back wall to here and about as wide as this room. That's full of just doing aquaponics. So and he's just building it now. I just saw him put it up last weekend. So this technology is becoming commercialized, industrial, and in a small area the size of that little dance floor there, you can produce enough with the fish and the vegetables. I'll bet you can years survive, do well for at least a couple of people, if not more. And I haven't, if you come over to our place, we just stripped all the stuff out. I wanted to see how well it would do during the heat of the summer. And it did a lot better than I thought it would, but eating a hot tomato is just like, ew. But so what happened, now we're starting to replant and all the seedlings and putting a bunch of stuff in and seeing where it's going. The fish get big really fast, so you got a lot of fish. We have chicken, so you got a lot of eggs. So this is the ability I wanted to demonstrate to myself and to my children and grandchildren that they can not only eat healthier, okay, and I give all kinds of stories about that, but that you can eat. When you get your energy, and we're starting to go electric. How many of you heard of Tesla cars, the electric cars, okay? Tesla cars, a lot of people don't know. You don't look it up on the internet. The quarter-mile drag race, a Tesla Model S beats a Corvette and a Dodge Viper. These are not slow cars. This is a sedan that outdrags a Corvette. 2014 Corvette, okay? Did anybody know that? No, they don't tell you. The reason is because electrical power goes straight to the motor like not later. Boom. It's like a gas engine, it's like, you start, then you got a peak performance range of RPM and about electric motor don't care. It's just how much can you put, how big's the motor and how much energy can you put in the batteries. The gigafactory that they need, he cannot make the batteries fast enough to produce a car. They're doing over 600 cars a day. Yeah. This is done, and everybody's trying to spread. How many of you seen the movie Tucker? Anybody ever hear about that? After World War II, a guy named Tucker left one of the big three and started his own company like the DeLorean story. Well, the big three said, hell no. Entire movie, Jeff Bridges plays the star role in that, of everything they did to crush people like Tesla, like Elon Musk. So Elon's also got SpaceX, there's all kinds of stuff going on. But they needed a gigafactory. They just broke ground. They finally decided in northern Nevada. Why? Right to work state, don't have to worry about unions, no state income tax, blah, 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 blah. Arizona was in the running, but I knew it wasn't going to get it. Why? Taxes. Because instead of giving them incentives and paying them, how about we just offer them freedom? You know what? You get to come to Arizona, what are you going to give me, freedom? Leave me aloneism? What's that worth? See my point? So what we're going to talk with Keith about, all of this is building up to what Keith is going to talk about. We need to be able to have a place where we can rest, that we don't have to be working 24/7 for the man. The Renaissance in Europe, the great inventions in mines and art and all kinds of expansion of humanity came because there was a warming period where there was an overabundance of food. That's what created the Renaissance. Because if you're hungry, you ain't worried about nothing else, okay? So if we cannot be hungry, maintain our standard of living, solar power, battery backup, we got, there's all kinds of other stuff coming, carbon nanotubes that we talk about and do it on Freedom Scan Tree, go over a bunch of stuff. The future is, we're going to whip ass. But the bad guys know that too. And we have to be, if we're not in their control, then we're out of control. Can't have that. Okay? So we need to be able to understand that the technology is coming. That's what we're doing, just proving the technology so that these aquadomes, I just bought a bunch of equipment. We're going to have one on display at the Prepper Fest. We have an area in the center of the Prepper Fest. Endless Food Systems has over in one of the corners. We're going to pimp out one of our aquadomes. I'm constructing it now for the end of October. That is going to show you, heck yeah, as a unit. And because they break down, these segments of the geodesic domes break down small enough that it'll fit on his shipping pallet. So they are buying, not near as good greenhouses for $1,500, $2,500, and I can make this thing for $300 and charge you $19.90. Yeah. So get the floor model when we do this. So what we're going ahead, we're going to be demonstrating this, and this is going much faster than people realize. And this is why 26-year-old girls doing their master's thesis in Finland is coming to the Southwest to see what the hell is going on. And she found out. It's a freedom thing. So, of course, you got indoctrinated on that one. Keith, what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plug in his lavalier mic thing. This is just Arizona. Now, of course, he's, have his philosophy of whatever. But this is, where do you go? How do you maintain your freedom? Have a piece of property and the man's not going, oh, I'm sorry, you look a little free over there. You're so not allowed, okay? Well, this is, a lot of it has to do with water. A lot of it has to do with a lot of different rights. Noreen Rake here, her and her husband have been buying and getting as taxes, delinquent taxes, you can take over land, pay the taxes, and over a period of time it becomes yours, or if they pay the taxes on it, you get a financial benefit and interest on it, blah, 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 blah. But they have been accumulating a lot of land. Well, they've been liquidating it in their later years. She has a 40-acre ranch up on 89 and 40 up there that we may go look at. There's a lot of this kind of stuff all over. Donna has been doing a lot of it. We have the pamphlet or the flyer that she's been passing out is a group, an intentional Christian community in Marble, Washington, up near the Canadian border that we've been visiting for like the past 5 years every year. Go up visit friends up there. They have gone aquaponics, and this is and they heat, okay, you'll love this, concrete slab, heated slab. They heat it from a spring that's a 40-gallon-a-minute spring up in the mountains that generates electricity from a turbine that has the water that does that year-round with snow all over it. This is amazing technology, and anybody wanting to just feed themselves are doing it. And, of course, they have farms. Now, they have a plot of land that was part of the paper industry or lumber back in the day. It was founded in 1910. Then it was just everybody moved out and it was abandoned when the industry went away. They came back about 1990 and refounded the town. What happened between 1920s or whatever, before the Depression, and 1990? A whole bunch of United Nations of biodiversity, you kind of under the treaty of we say, all right? So when they refounded the town, they tried to get, well, you need to sign this and update this, and kind of they go, no, we're good. They're grandfathered in on everything, to where you could be an owner-builder. They have no permits for doing anything. It's your land. You cut down the tree, build log cabin, done. They got their own sawmills. They have 150, 200 people there, and they're having hundreds of acres, and they're starting to sell off little slots. So those of you that are looking for this kind of thing, and an intentional Christian community, they did it. Then we have up in northeastern Arizona, Senator Karen Johnson up in Springerville. She has taken Navajo County and they're doing whatever. A lot of the revolutionary guys in the meetups and so on, they are making the move to go to Navajo County and try and have a constitutional county, kind of like the Free State Project, but do it by county, starting here in northeastern Arizona. Now, they're already starting to purchase land in large ranches and so on up in Chevron Canyon, which is up by Heber. They're doing it. And my question has always been, what is your conflict resolution? If you do anything collectively, and I go up and I do this, and they go, we don't want you to do that. I go, yeah, now what? Am I free to do what I want? Oh, it's not kind of my land, it's somebody else's land, it's shared land. So that's why I'm always about, no matter what I do, if I go and get me 20 acres or whatever, then anybody that comes up there, that whatever acre or something you get is yours. Put up a fence, I don't care, not my problem, peace out. Because if I got to worry about somebody worried about what I'm doing, I got to worry about them, it already is wrong from the beginning. It has to be private property. It has to be, in my opinion. I mean, you guys go do whatever you want, all right? But if I don't own in this mine, I can do what I want on mine, then I don't want to talk about it, okay? Yeah, but but you can be over there, okay? So peace out. That's what America's about. So this is what I wanted Keith to come talk about with this concept that you can feed yourself, you can have a high standard of living, you can communicate with the technology that's coming out now and go on and on about that. You have the battery technology is coming. All this is so we can free ourselves now, not later, now. Now, not later, okay? So then, where do you go do it and how do you do it? Keith McKinney.
Good morning, Breakfast Lovers.
Good morning.
Good morning, friends, actually. thing I like about hanging with my other friends and stuff, it's great. We have good conversations. The thing I like about these friends the most is you love enough to leave me alone, and vice versa. And if you're a missionary for the biggest religion in the world, that's the government. You're not trying to push that down, vice versa. Ernie said it well, we're trying to figure a way to be free today. I'm tired of waiting for tomorrow. I read on the internet 15 years ago, I can sit around and keep voting and hope that the politician finally will be elected that will give me my freedom. Or I can start living in freedom today. And that just kind of changed my whole mindset that day I read that. And so basically I'm going to talk about real estate. I've been in real estate all my life pretty much. And my dad was a contractor. He built houses and apartments when I was growing up. And so I've been looking at real estate in a lot of different ways. I want to change the way you look at real estate quite a bit. Hopefully the brainwashing that we got when we were schooled and culturalized by the system, hopefully a lot of it will go away. Now, some of you guys have been to my classes and seen some of the things that I talked about already. You're going to see some repeats of that today for the new people. But don't be discouraged by it. It might refresh. 6 years ago, I gave a speech here that about the mortgage crisis and what was going on then. I had just taken training from Neil Garfield, an attorney who is an expert about big derivative crisis and the foreclosure stuff. And whatever I learned there, I presented here at that time. But since then, I've seen a lot bigger picture that I want to bring by you and show you what's really going on with all this foreclosure mess, and it's a lot bigger than we thought. Basically, what I think I've discovered, and I'm looking for anyone who wants to refute it, is that the Federal Reserve System created, through their banking octopus, I call it, $1,000 trillion worth of derivatives. And they pass these around like they were money. And they bought the world, the entire world with it. And all of it was counterfeit. They use as security primarily your houses. So your home, your favorite hotel you stay in, $1,000 trillion worth of derivatives. That's 20 times the entire world money supply. The entire world money supply is about 50 trillion. This is 1,000 trillion. They want you to pay it off, you and your kids and your grandkids. And we're all working, our spouses are working, your great-grandkid will be working and still will not be able to pay it off, because remember, that 1,000 trillion is at interest. Even if it's at 5%, and the entire, I think the American GDP is like 10 trillion, 13 trillion a year. The interest on 1,000 trillion, that wouldn't even pay the entire GDP. So it's all phony, it's all these facades that we work under and that we buy real estate under. And we were told that you need to, when you graduate from high school, you go get a good job and you go get a house. And you pay it off over 30 years. And so I'm going to give you some numbers. I'm going to give you a lot of math today. I don't want you to drown in the math. The purpose of the math is only to show you something that's bigger. And that is to look at real estate differently and get beyond your comfort zone. Because what I'm going to show you is going to feel unusual. It's going to be uncomfortable. They tell us, get a job, buy, I'm going to say a $200,000 house. I mean, that varies greatly, obviously. Pay $1,400 a month for the next 30 years at interest. Now, to earn this $200,000, you're going to have to, with interest over 30 years, it's going to be $200,000, going to be $500,000, because the mortgage is usually almost 3 times the amount of the original purchase, the borrowing over 30 years. And they look for 30, buy at 18, and by the time you're 48 or so, it's supposedly paid off. Now that's with interest. Now, to earn the principal and earn the interest, you have to get your job going, which they love. So then they want you to pay a bunch of income tax. Can you guys see this? Yes. So to earn the income tax, to earn the interest, to earn the principal, I'm going to roughly guess at $700K, and that's probably low, for this $200,000 house. Now since you got to drive to Phoenix every day for 2 hours a day, there and back to the suburbs you live.
Keith, what's the significance of the 700 grand again?
The 700 grand is with interest and taxes.
Oh, okay.
So we got that plus taxes. Yeah, for 30 years of this. And then of course you're driving to Phoenix or wherever every day from the suburbs, and you're wearing out about 13 cars, I'm gonna guess. and gas. So you got about 850K in this 200,000. Now remember, your forebears could homestead land, and they didn't pay much for the land. In fact, they didn't pay. They bought it for 7 years and just lived on it. And that was the concept that Thomas Jefferson used some of our great-grandfathers' money to do the Gadsden Purchase and all the different ancient land buys. That land, they used our money, therefore that land is ours. It's not some great collective entity in the sky. So anyway, you're going to pay $850K for something that's worth 200, and without the land, it's only probably worth 120. The actual building on the thing. This is going to take you 47,000 hours of your life. You're going to work. In fact, if I look at how much people work, and I'll hold this up. Again, some of you guys have seen this already. This is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. First one, I'm going to do the problems, and I'm going to talk about some solutions. Many of you have seen this. You work all of Monday. Oh, there you go. I hired him earlier. For the government, for taxes. You work all of Tuesday for taxes. And you work half of Wednesday for taxes. Then, the other half of Wednesday, you work for interest. You're working for this interest over here. So you're going to work or half of Wednesday for interest, all of Thursday for interest, and half of Friday for interest. So you're working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and half of Friday for somebody else. For people that don't give you really anything in return. They give you a bunch of fluff and chatter, but value, there's not any really value coming back. So you're going to work, let's see what I figure out here, about 120,000 hours in your lifetime from age 17 to 65. And you're going to put 47,000 of those hours into this house that's overpriced. If you do it the standard way that we were taught. So, I don't know yet. And so, Martin Rose at the Jackalope Festival said that slavery has never disappeared, we just call it by new fancy names. Is this slavery? Is this working 90% of your day for somebody else you never met, will never meet, and has agendas that you don't know what they are? I consider it slavery. He also said the government is nothing but another religion. And I agree with that point too. If it is just a religion, and it's a phony religion, then who owns all the land? It's a government, it's nothing but a phony religion, and our Creator created the earth, and many of you have seen this sample before, and there's millions, at least hundreds of thousands of square miles of land available. Every inch, they say, is theirs. Every inch. Our Creator made it this big, and every bloody inch is theirs in the modern mindset. Had our Creator made the earth this big, and it would be 3 times probably the amount of acreage that would be out there, they'd still say every stinking square inch is theirs. Or had he made it this big, or if he made it as big as 1,000 Mars or something. So this whole concept, they own everything, is in here, and we have to get rid of it. So I'm going to show you in a few minutes some ways to get around that. This is what they want you to do, 47,000 out of your 128,000 hours. I'm going to show you 2 alternatives you can do in real estate. They're going to be outside your comfort zone. Be ready for them. I'm going to put alternative 1, and alternative 2. Some people in this room have done some of these already. It'd be interesting to hear their experiences. Let's say you quit looking at the world as in a retail fashion. Because how are we slaves? Part of the reason we're slaves is because we slave ourselves. Endless consumerism, endless interest, endless insurance, endless real estate expenses, endless medical bills. We are constantly we're enslaving ourselves. Consumerism being one of the big ones. If you get out of the consumerist mindset, the retail mindset, and look at some of this, you can start living more like the dealers in the world. You see car dealers, you see realtors, people investing in real estate. living a lot more comfortable life, driving a little bigger Tahoes and Suburbans and whatever. And they're doing it because of what I'm going to show you. Instead of spending 47,000 hours buying a house and watching a soap opera at night, you add 1,000 hours to your 128,000 hours that they have planned for you. It's going to be an interesting math equation. You have 120,000 hours, and you add 1,000, and do alternative real estate in a wholesale manner. This is going to equal probably 60,000 hours. So, very unusual math here. You add more hours to what you're doing already, and you're going to end up with a lot less hours. And I'll show you how. One of the number one ways of doing this is to buy right. You're going to look and spend hours and hours to train yourself about when you see a bargain. So if I see this glass, and it normally goes for 50 cents at the store, and I know it'll be cheap, and I see it for 5 cents, I know I found a bargain. I know that because I see them in Walmart all the time. You want to be able to do the same thing with real estate, cars, and like that. Look, when you recognize a bargain. If you go out and find this $200,000 house, and all over during the mortgage crisis, the banks went out and just sucked up the wealth of the people they had been working for 10 years before that. So in 2008, people had been throwing their money, working, paying off 10 years of 30-year mortgage from 1998, and all of a sudden they decided to have one of their little Great Depressions like they had in the 30s, and just take it from everybody. And 2008 was this big, huge swath of taking that took place. And many, probably half people in this room lost their homes. I lost one purposely because I wasn't going to pay these ridiculous amounts anymore. And I know that happened to a lot of people. A lot of people did not lose them purposely. They just lost them because there was nothing else to do. When your income goes to 1/3 of what it was and you borrowed money under these old numbers, you couldn't pay it. So the banks did all these mortgages illegally and improperly. I don't know how many remember my old pitch on that, but they created these phony notes and deeds of trust, and then they insured them 30 to 1. So it's like taking your car, finding 30 different car insurance companies to insure it, and then purposely going out and wrecking it so they collect the insurance. Well, they did that, and that's how they created all these derivatives. That's how where the 1,000 trillion came from. And they sold these derivatives to all these pension funds, basically. So most of your pension funds, at least what my attorney taught me, said they're all bankrupt. We just don't know it. Well, the public pension funds are bankrupt as well, and that's all plays a part of what I'm going to tell you today. The public pension funds got smart, and they said, we're going to save our funds, heck with everybody else, but we're going to save our own ass. So what they did is they created two big mega corporations called Blackstone and BlackRock. And Blackstone and BlackRock are on the NASDAQ or whatever, you can go buy stock in them. But they basically went out and they were kind of a phony corporation created by the banks themselves to buy their own foreclosures. And so when you go to a foreclosure auction now, you can barely get a house. These mega corporations are picking up the foreclosures, and the banks themselves are supposedly picking up their foreclosures for ridiculously high amounts. And they're flipping over to Blackstone, BlackRock. And what is going on is at least last I heard, I think BlackRock had 40,000 vacant homes in this country. They own owns these phony titles they've done. And basically what the main investor in BlackRock and Blackstone is the public pension funds. The government employees are smart enough to put all their funds into these houses. So yes, they have a bunch of vacant houses, but they have future rentals for the next 4 years. They know that your grandchildren aren't going to pay all the extra tax it's going to take to fund their pension funds. So they've got it all figured out. We'll have houses to rent. So you'll drive in neighborhoods, and you'll see vacant houses constantly. I spend probably 2 days a week driving through neighborhoods, looking for what I call boards and weeds. Boards in the windows, and weeds this high in the yard. And you'll find that there's a variation of reason why you'll see both of those things. But that's what I'll look for. And what I'm going to show you an alternative one is what you want to be looking for if you want to get into some of this. If you go out and find a boards and weeds, a lot of times it's going to be owned by a bank. What I use that for in my mind is that's a backup place if things go straight to Hades. Like I said, there's 40,000 of them, and they've got probably maybe 20% of them rented. The other 80% are just sitting there vacant. Some of them may keep the yards, and some they are not. So if nothing else, if I have 30 of these in my mind with addresses written on a piece of paper, and things go to H, I might have a place to live. I might make my place to live. Because in a chaotic situation like Ferguson or something that gets a lot worse, it may be better to live under a bridge with 15 homeless bums. But my other main reason of looking at them, probably the primary one, is to see how can I acquire that property so I can have it as a backup for the same scenario that I have title to. If I go out and find $200,000 house, or I look at 50 of them, I spend that $1,000 looking at 50 houses, one of them might be a real super bargain. I may go buy this $200,000 house in the neighborhood. The number I put, this is for the heck of it, it's 115. Boards and weeds, you know, dead animals under the house, whatever. And these are really life experiences. But I buy it for 115. And you say, where the heck am I going to get 115? There's hard money lenders will lend to you when you get the loan to value low enough. If you can buy this at 30 to 65% of its appraised value, there's hard money lenders that will throw you cash. You keep a good reputation. And if you want to do this, I can introduce you to some of them. But anyway, if you buy a dump, dead animal for 115 and put 10K, painting it up, getting rid of the weeds, replacing the boards with windows again, this thing's going to have 125 in the thing. 125,000 instead of 200,000 is about 63%. So if I can get this house, again, don't get lost in numbers. If I get this house for 30 to 60 cents on the dollar, I come up with this number. I can get money from a hard money lender. For seniors in this room, you can reverse mortgage this thing eventually and not have any payment at all. And I'll show you the number difference from this block to this one. At 125 grand, I'm paying 75,000 less for this house. I'm gonna go ahead and erase this temporarily. That's 75,000 less. That doesn't seem like a lot, but remember that's at interest, taxes, and all that other crap, and that's where the numbers are getting big. 75,000 less means with interest, I'm gonna pay 180K in interest instead of 500,000. Because I'm 125,000 minus 75, you're gonna be able to pay it off a lot faster. With taxes and interest, I'm gonna pay 250K. These are rough numbers. Since I only have to buy 3 cars over that time period instead of 13, because I'm wearing out driving down to Phoenix, I can have a lot less car expense. So for this house, I can pay $300,000 probably in 20 or 15 years instead of $850 over 30 years, because the interest compounds. This is going to cost me 16,600 hours to produce out of that 128, or it's going to cost me almost 30,000 hours less than just doing it the standard way that they teach us. 30,000 hours, what could you do with that? You can spend more time with your family, spend more time with a lady, spend more time fishing, playing guitar, you know, smoking grass, whatever it is you do, you can do a lot more of it with 30,000 hours. You can educate yourself, sure. So this is why you got to get out of the retail mindset and into the investor kind of mindset, even if you just do 1 or 2 of these properties. Now, if you do a couple of them, you could have one as a rental next. So getting out of this slave scenario is key to having a bunch of your hours back. If you get a bunch of your hours back, you got more time to drive neighborhoods like I do. And then I'm going to show you some even more advanced methods you can use for this. Any questions on any of that so far?
Yeah, Keith.
Yes.
I spent many years in the mortgage business, as you know, and the value at which a lender, even a hard money lender, is going to let you use for the basis of the value of the property has always been the lower of the appraised value or the sales price, unless it's a situation among family members.
Yes, for your wealth trust.
Excuse me, gentlemen, I'm trying to pay attention to me up here, please. As I said, the lender is always going to use the lower of those 2 values. You're saying that you can find a lender, even a hard money lender, that's going to allow you to buy this property for 30% of the so-called appraised value, even though you're buying it at a tremendous deep discount. I find that very, very hard to believe. How does that happen?
Because I have good personal relationships with people that trust me. So I've been doing it for 10 years, but you're right, it is relatively rare. It's correct in that. So if you have a good reputation or you have a good credit skill, you can get these people to throw in hard. I've been doing it for 10 years, but yeah, it is. They're not going to do it with just a stranger. They're rarely will. I want to go back to this thing real quick because I want to show you the hours. Out of 128,000 hours, if you're given 90% to these two things, that is, on that number, that's like 140. You're going to have 12,000 hours to yourself, and the other 116,000 hours are there. You've got to get out of this. One of my concepts I've noticed is that the welfare people don't work as hard. They're all sitting their butts getting food stamps and this check and that check.
God,
And
the
section.
welfare queen's there. Come on, Keith. That's
Pat, shut up.
It's not
Go.
your floor next time.
But the truth is that they are doing this. In this state, less than other states, it's still going on. Anyway, if they can find what I call, my point here is they find a sweet spot in society. And a sweet spot is not having much cash income. And so with not much cash income, they don't have to put in anymore. They don't have to give all these hours up anymore. If you get into real estate and you get one or two or three of them going, you can get yourself where a lot of assets but not as much cash, your tax bracket keeps dropping lower and lower, and you can be close to the so-called poverty level, yet you can be living very well because you're buying wholesale and living, buying better stuff. Like I bought this at a yard sale from an old man in the day. This would be $80 if I went and bought it retail. It's an old antique water purifier. I paid $10 for it, and it's built three times better than any made in China today. So if I can do that with everything, all of a sudden my cash income is close to poverty level according to the man, but my lifestyle is not. My car's better, my houses are better, and everything I buy is like someone's making $60,000, $70,000 a year. So finding that sweet spot may be one of the answers for freedom. Look to the man like you, and you actually are, you don't have a lot of cash flow. Look to them like almost welfare. Because every time you touch a Federal Reserve note, see them out here, a little something to remember this by. Every time you want to touch one of these, they got a game going on. They take 40%, they say it's mine. You can keep that, and they get to keep that. And then you need another one, it's some consumerist nonsense you bought into, they do it again. And they just keep taking at least 40%. I know this is ridiculous, but you're gonna remember. They just keep taking it, and tearing them all up pretty soon. Every time you touch one of these, they're taking at least 40%, if not 90%. I'm trying to show you a way to get around the Federal Reserve thing, where you're not using so much of those. And you have a lot of assets. Because you go take a piece of real estate and you get it cheap, and you sit up 2 years, $250,000 of the income on it or the gain is tax free. It's your primary home. $250,000 for 2 years of holding it. So if you make each one of these your primary home and you have a lot less in it, you have 30 cents on the dollar in it like the bankers do, and all of a sudden it's worth $200,000 2 years from now. All that so-called gain is nothing. You don't have any of those. You don't have 40% being torn off. Again, look at some of these things I'm talking about. This is alternative 1 I put on here. Alternative 2 is a little more radical. And like I said, I see some faces in here that tried some of this. You said the lady up there did tax liens. In this state, like all states, people are unfortunately passing away all the time. And when they're passing, most of their assets go there where they belong to their heirs. And unfortunately, too much of it goes to the government. And inheritance taxes, which is one of the planks of the Communist Manifesto, is to take every generation, clean it out, and make the next one work these 120,000 hours. My goal is I don't want to pay. I don't want the kids working as hard. I don't want the grandkids working as hard. That was kind of the philosophy of this country at one time. That was the philosophy that people built that. They built that the last 100 years. I can use that thing for 100 years, keep changing the filter, and it will last. If I buy a China day, it doesn't make it last more than 3 or 6 years. So I keep working, keep earning more Federal Reserve bills, keep paying, keep doing that 40% or more. So, like I said, a lot of people are passing away in this state, and so when you're out looking at your boards and weeds, you're going to find that people, I got a nickel and a penny here in my hand, and they've dropped. They drop stuff. They drop valuables all the time. I just dropped a penny and a nickel. Now is that penny and nickel still mine because I dropped it?
If I did.
Yes.
That's a good attitude. That's exactly the attitude you're going to need to do what I'm talking about here. That penny and nickel are mine, unless I don't intend on bending over and picking them up. Then the first son of a buck that gets down. So now you look at me, do I intend on picking up that nickel and that penny?
Don't know.
You don't know. You don't know. That's how you're going to look at the real estate. So when you look out there and see houses with boards and weeds, you're going to have to figure out whether someone's going to go back and pick that up or not. This is alternative 2. Quite frankly, that penny's not worth it bending over for, so I'm not going to pick it up. And the nickel, you're going to have to figure out whether I am or not. And that's how it is with this real estate. You're going to see shacks everywhere, and a lot of them are got these back taxes on them. I completely, as a libertarian, disagree with the back tax thing. It's all a scam. It's stealing. You work these $120,000 hours, they still want to take your house from you after you work all this for it. It's all BS to me. But since these things are laying out there and the tax liens out there, you can use the tax liens to see properties. Let's say you see, well, here I'll show you some examples. I drive around, I'll go up and down the neighborhoods, and this is gonna feel foreign to you for a while. This is a plat map of a neighborhood, and I'll print these out and drive these neighborhoods, and I'll take a highlighter and mark the boards and weeds, and I'll write on a piece of paper the addresses. Let's say I have 15 addresses. Well, I can get on the internet to the county assessor websites, they're all online now, and look up who the heck owns that. And I look on there a lot of times and I see they haven't paid the dang taxes for 4.5 years. Well, they're either good libertarians, they're crazy, or they're dead. So I find, unfortunately, 1 out of 360 times, they're dead. They're not going to bend over and pick up the nickel and penny. And that's when I know there's a property that you can maybe scoop up or whatever. You can go over there and do what the banks do. Because what the banks did when they did their phony foreclosures is their titles, their foreclosure deed, they call them trustee deeds in the state. They're phony. They just said, hey, when they created the thing, they did it illegally, they did it with a phony insurance. They separated the note deed trust, which the U.S. Supreme Court said was illegal. And so any trustee deed they've done for the last 10 years is phony, it's illegal. But they're up to something. Tiffany Bosco, the biggest foreclosure firm in the state, set up some laws for the lots before all this took place, because they were up to something. And they set up these laws here. ARS 12.523, 22, 24, 5, and 6. And these are the adverse possession laws in this state. I don't agree with these either as a libertarian. They're BS. But the reality is what these idiots run under. I will not use these against a living person or someone that owns something. I will not take a nickel from somebody that ends up bending over and picking that up. But if they dropped it forever, if I'm not going to pick that up over, it's going to go to somebody. And eventually, if nobody picks it up, the state will get it. The state gets $8.5 million a year in properties and monies from this very thing. So what the banks did when they did their phony trustee deeds is they are using these statutes. What do these statutes say? You can squat a house. If you squat a house that's been vacant for 4.5 years, and there's tons of them out there, and on private property, in 2 years they can't kick you out. In 30 days they can't arrest you. 2 years they can't kick you out. 3 years, if you do a deed on it, you have a deed, and you know if you can test it. 5 years you pay the taxes, you own it, and 10 years you just squat it in some other way you own it. So what Tiffany Bosco did is, in the 3 year, if you do any deed and it's not contested in 3 years, no one can contest it. So all these trustee deeds are nothing but adverse possessions. They're taking over properties from living people, living in the houses, and then kicking them out as fraud. Remember, Blackstone, BlackRock are involved with this. That's why they're covering it up. Now, Carla, and a bunch of you see in here, we were fighting this 6, 7 years ago, we were doing court briefs into the court saying, oh, this is illegal, and this is why, this is why. And the courts would just ignore us. And I thought, this is a bunch of crap. Every court we went to almost ignored us. A couple of judges were listening halfway. Like, what is this? Then Tom Horn, the Attorney General of the state at the time, still is, he filed the same arguments we did, even thicker brief at the Arizona Supreme Court. And guess what?
They listen.
He asked for I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars, and they listened and they settled for $70 million. The same things that we were bringing up and couldn't win with the judges. We said this is wrong. The judge says,
Yeah.
but when Tom Horn did it, $70 million came out of Chase, Bank of America, and all these guys went right to Tom Horn. What did Tom Horn do with it? He funded the private prison system. So the $70 million should have went to the poor victims of foreclosures if they were done illegally, obviously $70 million worth. Or no, they go to the private prison systems. We're going to have more slavery, we're going to have more hours, more toil and misery. This is what Tom Horn did. Now when I was at the Republican Convention handing out my little papers a few years ago, I walked up to Tom Horn to thank him for his brief. This was before he settled, a week before he settled. And he saw me, I started talking about that, and he turned around and walked the other way. Because he was going to settle a week later, and he did for $70 million. Give it all from the prison system. So this is the big picture. You work for this craft from 1998 to 2008, and every 10 years they have a little Great Depression or mini depression. And they take it from you over and over, and you can add more hours. Instead of working just to 65, you can add another 20,000 hours part-time from 65 to 85. That's what they're up to.
Keith, if he settled, does that mean you can rely or someone can rely on that case or not?
That's a dang good question. I've wondered the same thing.
The settlements are not always, but often private.
Yeah, this was a public brief, and
I wouldn't trust the court anyway.
yeah, they're all in on it. Remember, their own pension funds are in this stuff. Their own sit on your ASS. You know, they work 20 years and they retire for 40. We work 47 hours and get lucky to get 15 after. This is the dichotomy in this country. I call it the never producers and the producers. A lot of them are just shuffling paper around. They're not producing a dang thing for us. You know, we're out here working all these hours thinking we're getting ahead. Yeah, Carmen?
If I can talk. Sorry, my speech is messed up, so people have to bear with me. In addition to the adverse possession statutes,
Yeah.
there's 2 others that they might be coming in through.
Yes.
I'm not sure yet. One of them is entitled to agriculture, and if there's a weed in the yard or a spider or whatever, they can write into the Department of Agriculture and get permission to go in and take the property.
Really?
I forgot the statute, but it's entitled free. I've been wanting to take properties, one in particular, and do a public records request to see if they've given a certain entity permission to go in and take the property. Another statute that they might be coming in for besides the adverse possession is, I think it's entitled 12, I forget which one, but it's recovery of property. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at the complaints with the bank, they'll say in an introductory paragraph, like JP Morgan Chase Bank, as plaintiff in this action, hereby alleges as follows. But then in the allegations, there's no plaintiff. They don't say who the plaintiff is. I've yet to see a forceful detainer complaint that states who the plaintiff is. And under the recovery statute, it allows them to act as plaintiff.
Yes.
And so I think they're coming in, I have to get told that they're coming in through that, if not through the agricultural statutes.
And in legal assertions, right, in legal fictions, you can assert whatever you want.
Yeah.
And if it goes uncontested, like the money you dropped on the floor,
Yep.
then it becomes legal fact.
Yep.
Hey, there's one point I want to make that people understand as we went through a lot of this. This is one thing, I'm doing radio shows on it. We wanted to understand what was happening in the 08 thing. How did this happen? Blah, blah, blah. It came down to this. The whole foundational structure of capitalism or America, what the promise was, is that the county recorder would record whose property is this, okay? It's go, here's my property, here's the legal definition of it, this is the land, and then it's mine, okay? Well, the legal way that you would determine that when you borrowed money and did a mortgage was that you made a deal with someone that you got the money from that you're making the payments to, and this is the person. Well, they wanted to be able to do this derivative thing, take your home, chop it up, separate it from what the mortgage and the deed and all of that, so that they could put it as a number along with a bunch of other numbers and sell as derivatives on the stock market, okay? When they make that separation to be able to do a piece of your home as just a number out there, well, then that was illegal. It separated your obligation, who really owned it, who didn't, and who forecloses. So when all these derivatives and everything went bad, the house, your home, was the collateral for that. So they go, okay, well, we want to foreclose on it. All right, fine, show me your paperwork. Well, dog ate it, okay? So at that point, that's when all this stuff started happening. And we started seeing what was going on. They called it MERS, Mortgage Electronic Recording Service System or something, that the banks just made it up. There was no one. We had people that were making they were getting foreclosed on, and they were making payments, but not to the person that the computer said. That it was just getting all messed up, and it all started to crack. The problem was this: the whole justification and purpose of government was the protection of individual rights, was the protection of property. That was the point. When they made, under the conditions that they did this, and they separated that obligation, or that they could even know who it was, that's why people in this room, a lot, they go and they say, okay, show me the note. Show me who's responsible for this. They can't. So then what did the states do? They go, well, humana. And out of New York, they made a decision, who are they going to prosecute and get all these fines and the $70 million stuff from? Well, the people that didn't, they didn't know, they wouldn't, so they had, attorney generals had to agree that they didn't know, they're just going to pass laws, and we're all going to decide that it's all okay and we're not going to prosecute all this fraud. Well, finally the 50 states did, and it was under these conditions to where Horn and all these other 49 other attorney generals signed an agreement saying, look, it's too complicated, we don't care, it's a banker, Federal Reserve thing, peace out, how much do we get? And the people that got ripped off, the people that had the whole purpose of government was to determine whose nickel that was, it went away. So the legitimacy, this fallacy, this religion of government, the whole foundation was that you recorded documentation of what was your property. That went away. Now what? So when you find this legislation that he has, that they planned this from the beginning, and that they were going to go, now they got some people bitching and they made a mistake and this guy got foreclosed, they had a paid off house, you hear about this stuff and everything. That's just, oh, I'm ever so sorry, and it's amazing how far that goes anyway. I'll tell you this right now, candidate for governor, Barry Hess, this December will be 7 years in a home up in Sunburst Farms that he hadn't paid his mortgage. And he keeps going back and forth, and he's like, bring it on, we're going to find this out. Let's go to court. Come on, let's do it. Keeps filing, let's go. 7 years. And they just don't want to play. Because he keeps asking the right question. Who am I dealing with here? They know anybody that will put forth the time and the effort, and he's running for governor. Want to bring it up? What, you think they don't know this? Well, you're I'm a what? Want to talk about it? Want to talk about it? See my point? So 7 years. There is something really going on. Now, what Keith and I wanted to get into now, so before we run out of time, is how, when you have this down here, that you can go in and say, okay, I'm taking it. The bank wants to do it. Okay, I got just as much paperwork as they do. It's mine now. Now what? What criteria do they use for you to be able to take this land, this property, this home, this ranch, this whatever, that there's tons of it out here? The reason in Arizona that there's so much of this land and so on was back, and it was a Goldwater thing, and back of Steiger, and these guys back in the 70s, there was an enormous amount of land fraud that went on in Arizona. But how they did that, they go out and survey all this open land, and they'd have like these plots, just like you see here, and you know what it's like. You go up there, north of, out in the desert somewhere, and you'll go, wow, this is a great thriving community of sagebrush, okay? But they were selling it, and they were selling it to Army personnel in the Philippines and stuff like that. Get your acre of beautiful Arizona, and they have this great, wonderful, and they get them to buy it.
A picture of a lake.
Sorry?
we got a brochure from that era, because my family ended up with one that has a.
Yeah, my
lien
parents
tree.
have, was it Grand Canyon subdivision?
Yeah.
Of course, they're wanting to buy it back now, 40 years later, but I remember going up there, Bedrock, they got the Flintstone thing, excuse me, whatever up there. So as little kids, ooh, we got a few acres, we still have that. We have 40 acres, in Safford that was homesteaded by my grandfather that was a barber on the train during Geronimo days. I mean, this goes back, the whole side of my mother's family, Mormon invasion of Lehigh, kind of, whatever. So we know how this has been done, and I've seen over my life how land became somebody else's. And it's a lot of, they're just finances or whatever. But you can see how all of this is being done. So I want to focus on this part right now, because this here is how this land, as people pass on, there's nobody picking up the nickels, it becomes, if not the banks, the governments, and a lot of times they're the same thing. So how can we step in there and do this now? Is it libertarian to go in and use this tax system down there? Probably not. That's not the point. The point is that they're doing it, and they that didn't work to create it are taking it, and they passed laws recently because they anticipated it was all planned for, and they're doing it right now. So how can we take advantage of it?
Well, I agree with the libertarian thing.
I have a question. Are you just talking about property where the people have stopped making the payments on?
No, they're not. They're gone. They're later. They're
I'm
not
just
there.
confused as to what property you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm bouncing around quite a bit.
Abandoned property.
Abandoned properties
Okay.
and bank
Sure.
properties both. I'm kind of bouncing between the two, because I know what your comfort levels are, but some of you guys are going to want to mess with
Are
it.
you
Look,
talking about people who are...
He's going to tell you what he's talking about.
People who are being foreclosed on?
No, they're still in their house.
people that, I don't,
You're just talking about driving down streets and looking at houses. And what are those houses you're talking about? That's what I'm confused
I'm
about.
identifying 1 out of 18 houses down every stinking neighborhood in the state that's vacant and got boards and weeds. And I'm
Okay,
writing
so
it down.
nobody's living in it.
Yes, I will not, I'm a libertarian. I will not use the tax system to screw some living human being out of nothing, and I won't kick some out of house for
But
foreclosure.
you're saying it's possible to do that. Is
It's
that what you're
possible,
saying?
but the system does it every day. In fact, I'm gonna show you something here in a minute.
But people are sitting there paying their mortgages and they're just taking their houses?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
No, they're not.
It has happened, but we're not trying to do that.
When they've already been foreclosed on, the people
let's
have
hear
already been.
about
Okay, now let him finish, but this is where that story comes up. There are people that have paid off their mortgages done, and they get foreclosed on, they go to court, and they take their home, and they go, hey, I paid it off, and they go, yeah? Oops, we made a mistake, because it's just a big dragnet that they're doing, taking these homes, and they sometimes they make a mistake, or didn't recorded right, or whatever. Well, I got the payoff thing right here, they're like, yeah, well, we don't got a foreign stroke dash department for that. So it's these little stories that come out that emphasize that there's a dragnet going on.
But then you talk about a guy who hasn't paid his mortgage for
No,
7 years.
This is what we're talking, I'll tell you right now, this is what we're talking about. Somebody died. There is a vacant property that's gonna go to the banks and or the government.
So Barry
They're
has
dead.
moved into his house? Is that what you're saying? You said
No, no,
Barry
Barry-
has
no.
not made his payment
What's your
for 7
question?
years.
What is your question?
What I wanna know is, can I just stop making my mortgage payments?
If you are willing to spend an enormous amount of time to expose what's going on in Barry Lewis as a philosophical thing, and run for governor
You know
about
how to
it.
fight
Are
it.
you willing to do that? I wouldn't try.
The government is covering up the criminality.
Why would we even wanna get involved in any of this? I just wanna buy a fifth wheel and just go and drive and park.
I'm all for that.
Say, screw it.
But use this for the land, you're gonna put the fifth wheel on. Because there's nice little things
I
like this.
thought you were gonna talk about homesteading. You put the fifth wheel on your land and you homestead it.
I'm going to put homestead in this mix. My thing is, we should, if you're into the freedom or libertarian thing, is to promote homesteading again. Up to 1976, anybody in here could walk out and claim 160 to 640 acres for themselves by squatting it. And after 7 years of squatting it, putting your fifth wheel on it, or your tent, or build a junky little cabin on it, or build a Taj Mahal in there, it was yours. You had a land patent, it was not legal.
What happened in '76?
Our wonderful Congress and the phony environmental movement, mixed with Gerald Ford, took it away from us. We had it for since 1864. You can look up in Wikipedia, 1864 Homestead Act. You can just go take a piece of nice land. Our Creator made this amount of land, there's plenty for each of us. There's a square mile for each of us out there, and tons left over. Literally, probably 20 square miles. And why should we? You know, why should we let the government manage it and claim like they're owners? And they, when I've been camp a lot this year. 97% of your forest has been shut down the last 2 years. You go down the thing, roads is big, huge rocks is big, my four-wheeler can't get over them. They're shutting down the road, they're shutting down the campgrounds, camp here, there's no camping signs everywhere. They got, this is the 2006 map of the forest. I recommend keep these in your bug out bags. And if you open these up, you'll see a bunch of green with little white spots here and there. The white spots are all these homesteads like his grandfather, great-grandfather did. This is the new one. This is all the places you can't drive anymore. This came out in 2012. This is 06, this is 12. This shows freedom. This shows the new phony environmental, Obama, Van Bush, kicked you off the land. Don't leave the cities, stay where you're at. You go through here, and most of these roads are closed. They'll bust you. And they're turning all the forest rangers that used to clean up campgrounds and fires and stuff. They have guns that are U.S. Marshals now to enforce this. Now they want you to have a plate on every stupid little thing that rolls. Motorcycles, they don't ever ride on the highways. They want you to have a plate on it so they can track with the satellite. This is the new agenda. And we have to, if you're the libertarian movement, the freedom thing, whatever, we have to start pushing against this now, because once this sits around 10 years, it's going to be forever, the way the system works. So yes, homesteading is still, in my opinion, your right from your creator, not from your government. It's, that land is ours. If things go to hell, I'm going out and squat a piece of land somewhere with my fist or without it. So.
Excuse me, Keith, I want to address this point, because this is a good point, and I'm glad you brought it up. Yes, the philosophy is, can we go out and just homestead? We could. By the time that I would even knew about it, wanted to, and carried the patent forward and all this other stuff, all of a sudden it wasn't available anymore. They stopped it right when you wanted to do it, okay? Well, the government's and the bank's version of homesteading is this. They're homesteading it from somebody that already built on it. They're going, oh, now we're homesteading it. We're doing adverse possession. We're filling out the paperwork and kind of stroke dash it's ours now. Okay? Now, when we went to Baca Meadow, the Jackalope Freedom Festival, how many went to Jackalope? You know, quite a few of you went to Jackalope. Up there, it's called Baca Meadow. Alma, Summer, and I, we went and just looked all over up on the rim. Where were we going to have somewhere that would be free? It'd be like the Porcupine Freedom Festival in New Hampshire, getting a little bit too organized, a little bit too much fees, a little too many schedules. Right? We're going, you know what? Can I go camping for a few days, a week, a year, whatever? Can I go camping somewhere where it doesn't cost me anything? There's no agenda. You want it, you bring it. It's dry camping, and we just kind of do our bug out, and we're just peace and little kids running around. There's as many kids as there are people, okay? We're in our third year, going into our fourth. The second year, all of a sudden, the government got wind of it, and they said, oh, I'm sorry, you're not allowed. I go, I thought it's forest land, it's free. I go out in the middle of nothing, what up? They said, because on your Facebook you have more than 70 likes, then you exceed the permit, you know, the requirement for a permit to have whatever the heck that they wanted. You got to get the stroke dash form permission slip. And I go, okay, so we took that down. Now what? Well, you know, we know you're going to be up there, and a bunch of, I don't know, Jack Alope is in charge, we'll find him, okay? So we go up there, I went back and forth, I got recorded conversations that I had with them, putting 40 minutes of back and forth, and now it's quit it and so on, and I go, I just want to make sure you understand, we're not getting a permit. I'm going camping, and so a bunch of my friends to get over it. They showed up with M16s and tactical vests, helicopters. This was not this summer, but the summer before. Now, of course, everybody's got free hugs and, you know, cop block video cameras. And everybody were there, and they're going, ew, this isn't working out, okay? So this year, didn't hear a word from them. We bring our own porta-johns. We make sure we stay, some of us stay after, make sure it's in better condition than before we got there. We have expansion. It's hundreds of people. And I bet you next year it's double that and double that. And they're worried about a damn libertarian freaking rainbow festival. That's what they're worried about. Because what we found out, the people that were coming in their little Polaris, they want to talk to us and who's doing what, and they kind of tour and go by a little bit, and what's going on, little kids running around looking for jackalope. Okay, it's not that big a deal, they back off. But who were these people They were retired military and intelligence people that had moved up there because they know what's coming, and all of a sudden, here come the damn anarchists right in our backyard. Damn it! So we got a forest ranger with a badge and a gun to go explain it to them. And we just went, I'm sorry, could you explain that to the camera? So they backed off. In the meantime, we found out where we actually were. It was called Baca Meadow, was a homesteaded property back in the 1800s. As we started looking, there was something weird going on here. Because as we started looking at it, we found that Baca Meadow was not on the county deed system. It was like it didn't exist. It was a black hole and nobody knew who what. The last tracing we had was something that went to New Mexico. So this was, keep in mind, the Arizona-New Mexico territory, before it got split in half, New Mexico became a state, their enabling act, and Arizona became a state. But at one time, it was all one the same territory. Well, this was done prior to us becoming a state in 1913 or whatever, right? 12. So I'm going, there's something else going on. So when you're talking about the homesteading thing, yeah, we've been looking at this. How do you bring patents forward? How do you go in the county? Who owns it? Where does it go? It's a game. And when they stopped the homesteading thing, we're going, how are they playing this game now? Who are the homesteaders? It's the banks. They're looking for what you already, when they want something, the developer, my children and I, we used to ride motorcycles at north of Deer Valley and Cave Creek, right up over here in the desert there. It's now homes. 10 years ago, that was open desert. You go out there, and had the remote control airplane airfield out there and all that stuff. All of a sudden, they started doing this boulder thing. They started putting the fences up. Then on the weekends, you'd have a sheriff's deputy sitting there, and they come and go ticket them. I mean, it was like a 2-3 year process of how they shut it down, and then they sold it to developers and did it. But if they would have sold that land, acre by acre, and we go, hey, I want to buy some, they would have probably got more money. We would have paid, $15,000, $20,000 for a nice acre if I do whatever I want as them, But no, you had to do it in 100-acre, $100 million big lump sum kind of only the banks can afford to get a developer thing, which they did. They didn't make as much money, but it went to them and not us. It happens all the time. The Bureau of Land Management, I found this out. I used to fly ultralight airplanes. Well, some friends, they go in the early 90s, say, hey man, we need to have them kind of, about these guys, go find out. So you can do surface leasing like they do for ranching. That's all this ranching, trying to get Clyde Bundy off the land and all that kind of stuff. Why? Because they have a certain ownership or a lease of the land. Okay, this is my land for whatever purpose. Some have mineral rights, some have the air, some have the land, some have the water, some have there's all kinds of different ways you can do it. And the Bureau of Land Management, the land was to be money to fund our education system. That's what the land was for. So what they do is, instead of doing that, they go, they got to get them off, they got to break their lease or whatever so they can sell it to a developer. So this homesteading thing that I'm very interested in, been doing it for decades. And it keeps going back further and further and further, and now they're homesteading us. So as they're homesteading us, how are they doing it? Well, they're just doing adverse possession and taking and doing it's ours now. Okay, well, can we do that to people that are dead, that aren't going to use the land, that it's over and it's just going to go to the banks and them? I say we get it, or at least people know how to do it. These young people, I probably won't be doing it. I want to go buy some land, whatever. But the point is, if you're young and in your 20s and you got some time to spend, don't spend the rest of your life working for the man and paying taxes and interest and mortgage and all that, and enslaving your children. There's an opportunity for you to homestead, just like the banks and the government is. And the laws are set to do that for them. You should at least know about it. That's my point.
Let's hear that. Okay. Okay. Anyway, yes, you're reasoning that well. They're homesteading us. Now, when they're doing their adverse possession against us, they're doing it illegally. You're supposed to do it open, notoriously, and whatever. And that's only when it's not contested. If I'm contesting it, if I'm contesting my foreclosure, that's an illegal adverse possession taking place, but they're doing it anyway. They're just doing what the hell they want. Because they need to back their $1,000 trillion of derivatives on your slave labor. They've got to keep you on this number. And what I'm teaching you today, if you use it right, will take you at least half of that away from you. They don't like that. Because every time you spend $1 more in taxes, that means it's $1 more you got to borrow at the bank. And If you have to borrow another dollar at the bank, that's more tax you gotta earn to earn the income to pay off the interest. They've got to keep playing that dollar game on you. Keep it the banks and the taxes, so they get the $120,000 done. And that you're only spending $12,000 providing for you and your family. The rest is going to what God knows what. Okay, 1,000 trillion, the unpayable debt. Your 8th great grandkid will not be able to pay that off. Your 24th great grandkid will not be able to pay 1,000 trillion interest. But that's how the game. That's the paper they already got laid out before us, and they want us to pay it. So, Ernie's right. Is there homesteading on us? We can homestead on stuff that we're not attacking somebody else. There's no force or fraud involved with what I'm going to talk about. It's not. Listen, this is a map of Coco County. The white in the middle is Flagstaff. These little white dots are homesteads from the last 100 years. When you take a Forest Service back, you'll see these are the premium piece of land in the state, because the old ranchers would always go find a place with a creek right through the middle. So there's lots of trees, creek through the middle, and this is what they're homesteading. Now, what the Forest Service has been doing for the last 40 years is they're buying these out and turning them back to forest. They have 1,000 trillion to do it. They want to wipe us even out of that. They want us in these big cities in the condo for the environment, working in the windowless factory with those $120,000. They don't want you homesteading. So my proposal on the Homestead Act is that as a libertarian movement, is consider promoting this homesteading back as a libertarian idea. I say it's going to offend Pat, but let's exchange all welfare, get rid of it, and replace it with homesteading. Because a homesteader, I'd rather, if I was a homeless bum getting food stamps on the sidewalks of Phoenix, I'd much rather drop my $120 of food stamps and go have a quarter section of land that I can farm myself and put a tent on. I'm way more independent. I don't get robbed at night. So I think it's a great libertarian concept, homesteading. There's a form of homesteading that still exists on the law books today. Even though they got rid of the major part with their philosophy in 1976, mining patents are still on the books this very hour. Now, here's the thing. You have the right to go find a piece of land with mineralization on it, copper, gold, silver, things like that, and you can file a mining claim. It costs you a couple $100 a year to file your paper on it. It's 20 acres. You can do up to 20 acres per mining claim. You can do more than one. So you got a 20-acre mining claim. The law says you have the right to the minerals in there, and in this crazy economy where the paper money is almost worthless, it might be a good idea to have. 2, you have the right to patent that land. The law says you have the right to patent it. You do this bunch of paperwork. You go down to BLM, look at the files out there this thick of big corporations that are doing this. And they patent that land. They have 20 acres. And then they own the surface rights to build houses and subdivide, and they own the minerals so they can live for the next 10 years with real money. Now, unfortunately, our wonderful, started with Clinton, they started on and off into the Bush era now, and it's Obama. You can fill out your mining patent application. $5 an acre is what you got to pay. It's not homesteading is free. Mining patent is $5 an acre. So 20 acres times $5 is $100. You got to pay $100 for 20 acres of land. And you do up your little pay work, and you go down to BLM down here in Phoenix, and you put on a thing. They made an internal regulation that they cannot take any employee time accepting and stamping your application. So this is the start with Clinton. We can't accept your application. We can't take any BLM employee time. We can just go out and crash and force, but we can't take your paperwork so you get a lousy 20 acres. So this is how they subvert laws that are still on the books. Mining claims are still on the books. Mining patenting is still on the books. And they subvert even that with this nonsense. Because they got the bankers and the tax fiends want these hours out here. They want you in a state of no rest. This whole new world is about not resting. You think you're ahead, you got 20,000 in the bank, and your stinking transmission goes out in your car. They constantly have us in a state of no rest. That's why they build junk instead of stuff like that. Water purifier.
You said BLM land, but then you said go to the state. Well, BLM land is federal. So are you talking about state trust land, or are you talking about federal BLM land?
Well, as a libertarian, I use state in its libertarian sense. State is the state, the government, the phony religion, the cult.
Okay. So you're saying we can take and we can file a mineral rights on BLM land?
Yes, and Forest Service.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
See, you need to understand, we went through this in the 90s, during the Clinton administration. If you were a felon, you're not allowed to vote or have a gun or any of that stuff. A lot of people, everybody's a felon now, for Lord knows what. They would go and do the same kind of paperwork to have their rights restored so they could get firearms. So what the Clinton administration, they learned something. They go, if we want to stop people from doing the claims, stop people from getting their rights back, stop people from doing something, yeah, it's still on the books, it's not there. It's just the executive branch is kind of what does where the funding goes. And they said, no government employee time shall be spent on processing, you get line form, this form, that form. So they don't have to change the laws, they just don't take the application.
It's insane. Well, this is insane. We let them take an action, they've taken them out. They're soon they're ready to take it.
Out of being in the dark.
Yeah, out of ignorance. That's why, I promote libertarianism every day. I enjoy my life, eat my steak, I promote a little freedom every day. That's why I put the flyers out. I'm fed up with this crap. I'm done. Just done.
What's alternative two?
Okay, alternative two is we've been working up to that. Alternative two is you're out looking for boards and weeds. Actually, you're looking for nickels and pennies laying on the ground. So you can drive in areas like this. I recommend if you're going to go out and do this land thing, and a lot of people here are doing this, it's preferable to find land with trees and a little bit of water in it. That's my philosophy. I maybe full of crap. I can walk to a creek, take a bath, and drink out of it. I may not have the resources living in a fifth wheel in a flat area to drill a well. Some of these areas out are 500 feet down, you just can't do it. So I prefer trees and water. That's my preference. So you can drive around Phoenix. There's tons of these. You can drive any city in this country. I've just tons, 10, 20, 50,000 miles on the vehicles. Ride these neighborhoods and ride these things. Here's an example of one. Here's a couple months ago, this house had boards and weeds. It's on Corner Street and Avenue. Unfortunately, because I did nothing with it, and neither did anyone else, the tax lien people filed foreclosure on it. They probably, I looked it up recently, they probably own it now. So someone got this 68 on their property for $5,000. They did it through the tax lien system, which I think is immoral. But had I found, had I went in there and done alternative two and looked for that, I could have went over there and did my homestead or squat on it. I squatted 30 days, the cops can't even get out there. 2 years, I guess nobody can kick you out. If I'm reading these correctly, and I believe I am, very short paragraphs. So I could have went over there and squatted that thing and then paid the tax lien myself. And then I, after so many years, are the owner of this property on Avenue. And that way, they rip anybody off, and I have a place for a heck of a lot less hours than they had planned.
Then you're gonna go in a race car that run on water and won the deal.
Yeah, they had that story on Outer Limits too. I think it was in Twilight Zone with that guy that had water running in the car. But anyway, this is quite a...
And Rockefeller's bottom out. Bottom out.
Well, this is...
Astronomical amount.
The thing about this is that you can go to this website and buy the plans, $175. Then they got a list of parts. You can go to the places we went to and buy all the parts and build it yourself.
And then what?
Then you'll have one.
And what am I gonna do with it?
Hook it up to an alternator to charge batteries and run your house on it. Without being on the grid. 100% off the grid if you want to be. It's a lot of power.
What's the RPM for that?
So you can adjust it, and that's what Steve's going to be doing is checking on different voltages and checking on the proper settings. We've got an alternator at a 12-volt marine battery.
So you have found something to do with your free time.
I'm not doing it. The guy's unemployed, and I gave him the money to do all this, and it's going to be my device when we're done. And then we were going to manufacture, but he's an engineer, he's done all the engineering work. He's also an RF engineer, and what he's going to do is replace some of the parts with electronic components, so the only moving parts is that shaft. Those magnets are phenomenal.
Don't get the shit
They'll
out.
break your hand if you're not careful. So this really wasn't possible before those N52 magnets.
What's the M52? Molly?
Yeah, whatever they...
What's
Strong.
the 52? Strength or?
It's the type of battery you order. Yeah, they're super magnets, but they come, you buy 20 magnets, they come in a stack, and to get them apart, you have to build a thing, put them on the edge of a table and slide them off. If you drop them, they hit the floor, they'll shatter, they'll break. So you can't let the magnets hit together, it'll break them. That's why the guy had that magnet wrapped and he was dropping it so it wouldn't hit too hard. But you can go to that website and look it up. It's fuellesspower.com is one of the, they take you to the same site. There's a number of different sites. They've got their generator plans. You get the motor and the generator, put them together, and the motor is a free energy motor. It turns the generator and it'll generate up to 6,000 watts.
That's enough for a house.
That's enough for a house. The disadvantage to that method is that you wear your moving parts out after X number of months. We don't know what that number of months is. So instead of that, they say use 6 forklift batteries, which have to be delivered by a forklift because they're so heavy. Put those in. Then you have your motor set up to charge the batteries, and you build a, Steve's going to design electronic devices which will tell when the batteries need charging and automatically start the motor, charge them up, and then stop. So it'll only run like a refrigerator, only run when it needs to. So if you're not using much power, you may go all day without the motor running at all. But if you turn on your lights at night, your electric heater or whatever, and you're using some power, then the thing will kick on. So essentially, you can go 10 or 15 years without any mechanical work except for oiling the thing once in a while.
What's the amperage, you know?
Uh,
I mean, if it's full on voltage.
It depends on what your generator, hooked up. It'll produce that. This motor in this picture is 16 horsepower. So whatever kind of generator 16 horsepower will turn, that's a pretty good sized generator. You can build a bigger motor. You can put. You got one set of magnets. You could have on the same shaft. You could have another set. Double your
No, but I
strength.
mean, okay, you got the wattage, but what's the
That would depend on what you. What
the
kind
power
of.
house, you're gonna need at least.
It
20?
says it'll put out 6,000 watts.
Now, that was an analog meter, but if
So
you
do the
have
math for
smart
Five-
meter.
five-
You're
V
looking
equals
for
RT,
IRV.
voltage equal, no, voltage.
SRP will be after you.
That's something you might want to
Where?
take from your house,
SRP will be there to shut you down.
cut you
I'm not worried
down,
about
for
it.
sure.
Well,
That's why we have the Second Amendment.
Right. Do you have the flat?
Anyway, if anybody's interested in more about that, just somebody gives you that and bring it here and show
Look
it.
at your box, car box.
Show it.
No,
Well, that's pretty
say-
slick.
See if it's a flat plate like it is,
Everything else
or
is
is it
SRP.
The
digital.
plans that I bought, we paid $475 for the plans. We bought plans for everything they make.
We had ours removed.
So I've got it in here, I'll show you the plans.
What,
APS is
There
pretty
are-
What they do now, they don't have to read meters anymore. It's all done electronically.
really?
And it's
There's
monitoring
the
every
fuelless.
Years you own it. It's so boundary disputes just don't get rehashed over and over. I can see there's a great room for abuse with this, so it makes me nervous. But for, like I said, it's Nichols Lane there. If, what's that address? 1255 33 West Wonder Street in Avondale is just sitting there as a nickel, and I could go pick it up, then why not? Because the heirs don't give a damn, they don't even pay the taxes on it. Now, if they're doing it as rebels, I don't want to mess with them, but they're just doing it because they don't care. They don't care about the nickel because they inherited $20 million from Aunt whoever, and they don't give a darn. So
At what point do you pay the tax lien?
that's a good question. I would probably approach the tax lien holder, and I would say, hey, I'll give you 1,000 more of you own it. I'm gonna pay it off anyway, so I'll give you 1,000 more than you have one. If they don't want to sell it, then I'd start paying it off. I would probably wait as long as I could. I'd let most tax lien people don't foreclose. So when people buy the tax liens, at 16% interest, let's say this tax is on this is $700 a year, I'm gonna guess, and someone bought it 4.5, 5 years ago, the tax lien will be about $3,000 or $4,000. Most of these people don't foreclose. Only the aggressive ones. There's a big, forgive me, there's a big religious institution in this state that is heavily involved in this, and they're buying all these up and they're foreclosing houses. And you could outwit them if you're smart and get in there yourself.
Yeah, have you actually done this?
Yes, I have.
Okay, it's worked out?
Yes. 4 years ago, I got a property in Casa Grande, and it was a big, huge vacant house, and it had weeds. But I could tell it was a brand new house, never been lived in. And probably at the the time $1 million house, and big columns in the front thing. And I decided, I looked it up, I got it on the assessor's site, and Silver State Bank had a lien on it, but because Silver State Bank, who I think was, I can't remember if Bush was involved with Silver State, McCain.
McCain's son.
McCain's son was in Silver State, went bankrupt. Silver State wasn't foreclosing the property. So I went ahead and just took it over, went in there and started living in there. Lived in there about a year. In $1 million house, every bedroom, 5 of them had a bathroom. Very nice place. It was too far out, I didn't mess with it very long. But anyway, Silver State sold to another bank that was controlled. And it went bankrupt. So I was checking out the title. You just got the county report site, checked the chain of title, and I noticed that bankrupt bank after bank had this thing. So I got it and started investing with it. Also, the realtor that was involved with the building of it originally was pissed because I'm stepping in on something that he's got his eye on. So the realtor calls the county and tries to get us harassed, but the county, it's a long story. They were going to get all kinds of government agencies on our ass. But anyway, this is what goes on. These corporations are dying and people are dying. And banks, the little banks are dying. So the little banks, sometimes you'll find reports of weeds that a little bank has, they're never going to close, they don't exist anymore. If you find that, that's a perfect, ripe opportunity for alternative two.
Let me do the tax thing. We gotta wrap it up here in a couple of minutes, but I wanna make this point so you guys understand. Tax liens is that you pay the taxes every year on your property, whether you're a private property owner, a corporation, whatever. If you don't, somebody else say, hey, we'll pay the property tax on that. And then when they pay it, if you don't pay it, the people that paid your property tax, eventually it becomes theirs, okay? Because it was gonna be the government's. People will then come in and they say, okay, we're gonna pay the property tax on, they'll go, fine, you can pay it, but it's up to 16% that you have to pay a penalty on that would go to the person that bought or paid the taxes, right? So it's up to 16%. But there's another little twist in there that I didn't see. It's all the demand, you know? The little twist in there is that corporations, on their balance sheet, they know that they can be delinquent at least 1, 2, 3, 4 years. So if it's valued in a big, we're in the boom and it's 2006, and their big property's worth $1 gazillion, their accounting department just won't pay the taxes.
Yep.
Well then, all of a sudden, other people, they'll go and pay the taxes. Well then they bid down. And they're in competition, they know you're gonna pay it back. They know you're gonna pay the taxes on the car, you're just putting it off. So what do? They take the money, invest it in a CD that pays blah, 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 whatever, and then that's not 16% anymore. Other people, they know they're gonna get their money back, or they get their property, they don't care either way. So it bids down, it's not 16, it's 15, it's 10, it's 7, it's 8, it's 4, okay? So they get bid down as an investment for them, the corporations pay them, they got less on their taxes, you know, they're fine.
4% loan.
You know, so it's just like a loan that they get, a low loan that they used on their property taxes to go and invest in whatever the hell else they want to do. But who makes up this stuff? The corporations, the banks, and the government. And when you start doing it, they're like, wait a minute. But a lot of times, like when he's doing this big, expensive home, there was ones up in Surprise, same thing. There was developers, they did like, I don't know, 3, 5 homes, really nice homes up there, and they went bankrupt. The next bankrupt, and you could just go in adverse possession, so people did this. The problem is, it's a guy that originally built it, or it's a realtor, or someone, they know that property's sitting there, and they want to do it.
Yep.
Okay? So this is happening, if you are educated, if this is happening all the time, do you know it? Do you understand it? It's not what you want to happen, it's not what you think should happen, it's what is happening. And how, as libertarians, can we go in and not be slaves? Okay, there's a mechanism that they're not slaves. Okay, we'll use that mechanism. But against who do we target? Do we go after people? Do we go after heirs? No. It's nickels laying on the ground that they're taking it, and this is how they're doing it. And so we can do it if you put a little effort in it.
So, to wrap this thing up, I think as libertarians we should promote the re-observation of the Homestead Act. I don't believe acts make laws. I think the land came from the Creator. He gave us the land when we popped out of a lady's womb. It's not theirs. That's the mindset we need to rediscover, like our grandfathers had, and like his grandfather had. Two, I'm not giving these 120,000 hours anymore. You get out of your comfort zone and take this 1,000 hours here and just drive up and down neighborhoods, start looking for boards and weeds. I see these things all the time just driving around, and now I write them down, and I have an old blog book I bought for $1.50 at Staples, and I just write the addresses down. Sometimes I carry the laptop now, and I just type them in there, so I have to type twice. Then I can go, get on the internet for a couple hours a day, and start looking at the ownership on it. Particularly if the taxes are behind. If the taxes are back a year or two, don't mess with them. That just means someone's behind. But the ones that are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, there's something wrong. Somebody is giving up. Somebody's dropping the nickel. Either an old LLC that went bankrupt, or a human's dead, or something. And that 1,000, by doing this or this, will save you most of this. And now you got time for your guitar lessons and whatever other things you want in life. And then we can promote libertarianism. Take part of what you say from what you learn from me and put out a couple 10,000 flyers or so. Just keep spreading the message. I think it's irresistible to do it right. I'm not giving this anymore. I've made up my mind. And I'm using a lot of cash. If I do have a property once in a while, I turn it into cash, and when I do one every 2 years, it's tax-free. I'm not paying this anymore. I'm not paying all this interest. I'm not paying this taxes. So.
Thank you, Steve. See, this is to my kids and the younger people. And I'm glad to see some young people in here. I want to tell you a story. About 5 years ago, someone sent me a link on a web page about them doing aquaponics in Ecuador. And this is, like, they take it from Asia. You know, you have, that's how they go, whoa, yeah, rice paddy with koi fish, and we have done, we've been doing that for millennia, dumb Westerner. I mean, you know, this is not, like, new to them. So what happened is he had a gazebo that had a hot tub in it, and he wasn't really using it. So he put the fish in there, and the gazebo was hanging plants everywhere. And he was producing a lot of food. So she's like, a friend of mine, she goes, yeah, you got to see this, thing's awesome. So we started looking at it and so on, and then we found a place called gardenpool.org. Now, they came and spoke here. They're in Mesa. And some of you may have heard of them. Yeah. They're on Doomsday Prepper and all that kind of stuff. But to get on Doomsday Prepper, you got to have Kevlar helmets in a room and a plant. They make this shit up, you know. I just want you to know that. But it's what I knew, and that was really not their thing. He was in the computer IT guy at Home Depot. And what he did, he knew all the stuff that he had. I mean, he wasn't on the floor. He's more of a computer guy. But he goes, yeah, you know, they got I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do that. And he decided this. He got a home in Mesa during all the foreclosure stuff and everything. It was like, it had an old pool in the back, a little tract home in Mesa for like $40,000. Nothing. But he had to deal with the pool. Either you spend $4,000 or $5,000 on fixing it, or you fill it in. And he goes, you know, I think I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to try hydroponics. So he took and he built a covering over the pool, and it's a big giant greenhouse. You open the door, you go down the pool steps. You have the deep end over there, and he started using hydroponics, you know, different chemicals and everything, and growing in rain gutters. So he had the rain gutters, and he had it all plumbed out and everything, and he's growing. But he had to go and get the chemicals all the time. And he's like, you know, I'm still on the system, and it's just ew. He didn't want to do that. So then he kept seeing that all the water that he had kept draining to the deep end that he kept having to pump out. And then he heard about, you know, doing fish and aquaponics. He goes, you know what, I'll just let the water go down there. I'll just go ahead and put some fish in there. Then he got chickens that went over it, and their waste went and fed the algae, that fed the fish, that fed the plants, that cleaned the water, that went back to the fish. So he starts developing this thing, and because his family members and neighbors or his family were like, what the heck are you? All right, fine. So he starts a blog, gardenpool.org. He starts a blog, this is what I'm doing, this is how it's doing. All of a sudden, he gives big tours, 50 people at a time, every weekend. There's people going there, we buy our fish from them, you go in there, we've had him, he's on TV. And the second he made the news here a few years ago, yeah, and they're doing, they got the reporter there standing in the deep end, yeah, we're getting fish, and we're kind of, you know, whatever. 2 hours later, City of Mesa shows up. And they said, we hear tell you're making food without a permission slip, okay? They went and did all the measurements, and they didn't see that he broke any law because the covering, the thickness of the of the plastic that he put over the hoop on his pool was just thin enough it didn't classify as a permanent structure, and he was allowed to keep it. Whoa! You almost wanted him to get it, you know, so you could have some fun. So that developed a whole bunch of the aquaponic things of what was capable. So he's been like a little seed here in Arizona, and it's just been going out from there. And then the food system, the Pepper Fest, this thing I've seen from nothing in 5 years has become an industry. When you go to the hydroponics, I got marijuana, super bud store over on Mesa now, it's a hydroponic of the whatever. Half the thing is done to aquaponics with fish in there. This is massively growing, but what do you need? A place to do it, like he did. Family of 4, feeds himself, backyard. Then he added goats and all that kind of stuff in this little bitty backyard. I bet the whole backyard isn't as big as this room, okay? So I'm going, and it's probably, the pool takes up a third of the whole damn backyard. This is happening now, and for the young people to get into, I'm gonna have the big McMansion or the kind of whatever and be a debt slave for the rest of my life, you don't have to. My daughter-in-law, my son has a good job, he's an Uber guy over at Honeywell Aerospace, okay? Smart guy, management, he's doing fine, makes some money. His wife, well, I just want to, I want to go to work because I got like 3 little kids and they're like, pain in the ass, and I, get out and something, maybe get a job, have some more money. I go, let me tell you what happens. And I did the chart. I go, for you to do this, this is how much more you have in transportation costs. This is what the tax bracket it puts you in. This is how much, you got a daycare thing to deal with, on and on and on and on and on. And I go, you take all these hours and you just gave it to the man, when you could take that time, teach your kids how to do it, and they have a place now where they got the new home has a perfect place for it, doing the aquaponic thing, to where you teach, because they help us. They do the chicken, fish, aqua. They come over every Monday, all grandkids. I just have my 6th grandkid, his grandkid today, okay, on Mondays. They go and they learn how to feed themselves. They learn about farming. They learn how to, what's healthy food. And my granddaughter, she goes, is this good for me? Okay, good, man. She just down broccoli, whatever. As long as she knows it's good for her, she doesn't care, she'll suck it up. Yes, okay? My oldest daughter's child, she was a year old before she ever tasted sugar in her first birthday cake. This is a whole different mindset the next generation is starting to get. And if they start, instead of spending all the money on transportation and insurance and gas and mortgage and interest payment, all that kind of stuff, that they can free themselves. When they first got married at early 20s, they started having children. They have 3 children now. They're from like 2 to 5. They bought one when the things went to crap. Donna, everybody wanted to buy a home. Oh, we're getting home. My kids, I wouldn't help them. I go, no, it's at the peak. It's not, no, hell no. Boom, the crash hit. They bought their home for $85,000 on Greenway and I-17. 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a pool. They sold it a year or 2 later for $140,000. They took that, put the equity into another home they got cheap because it went down, here last, a year ago or something. Now, it's kind of coming back up and it's going to take a big dump again. Get ready for that. And so they got this home, nice home with a bunch of money in it. This is what happened. They come in with the solar thing and they go, we're going to do, you don't have to pay anything, you get the solar, and that $300 a month bill that you got, you pay us $200 a month, and you save $100, and in 20 years, you pay off and you got your solar thing. Well, he goes, you know what? I'll take the equity in my home, I'll pay for the solar, I'll put it into, because I got equity, I'll put it into my mortgage and refinance the deal, got a lower interest rate, his payment went up $99 a month, and he owns his solar. So he's paying $100 a month for his electric bill forever and owns his solar. You see my point? Oh yeah. No, they're going to, well, if you tie into the grid. What if you do your own battery?
If you live in Mesa, you're in the grid. Or in the town.
So you see the different mindset. I'm trying to take this, or what Keith is talking about, and go to my children, my grandkids, and you young people and say, stop doing this. All you're doing, you're eating crap food, packaging I don't have time to prepare. I'm putting the Mylar bag, cardboard box in the microwave, and I'm eating, and then you get sick, and you spend all this time in your later years fighting disease, and you're not healthy, and you could have just grown it yourself in your backyard and had fresh fish. I mean, this is my point. Yeah.
I should have made 2 points that I didn't. This particularly works on land. There's tons of land out there, tons of it. Eventually it's going to the state. They're cheating it all. The word is cheap, so that we read it as cheap. So if you guys just want land, put a fifth wheel or cabin or a tent on it, you can do that with land. Check these out with trees, hopefully water. Think about that. Second, don't waste your time in ghetto areas, war zone, drama zones. There's tons of crap in the ghettos. The problem is you fix it up and you leave it for 4 months and they go back and go seal it up and to paint graffiti on the outside. You can never win the ghetto or war zone. Don't waste your time doing this in drama or war zone.
Go to the rich neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. Go
You know,
find
some of them. Tonopah is, you know, I don't know, way out about an hour west of Phoenix. Ocean of water, it's just desert, but it's gridded out, and it started going up. I mean, you're 10 acres, you're paying a couple $100,000 just for land. I mean, it was stupid. Then all of a sudden, it started taking a dump. And now it's going to take a dump again. It started going back up, and it's going to go to where you can get wells. What it was 5 acres, a nice home with a pool and a well, $110,000 in Tonopah. And it went like that. I go, hey, don't do it, it's gone. So, I mean, now what happened was, Hickman or whatever, eggs, is that what it is, Hickman? They bought a big giant section, a chunk of land out there, probably, I don't know, 20 acres or something, and they put, you know, chicken production, you know, egg production out there. So it's 3 big, long, white, whatever. Well, the community out there freaked out. It's going to plummet our values of the whatever and so on. Well, they pinky swear it's not going to smell, and we got the new bio-recovered methane of you don't move over here and we'll be a good neighbor kind of thing. And they're probably going to get whatever they want because who's a sitting county commissioner? One of the Hickman brothers, okay? So they're going to be fine. The problem, I go, well, it looks like jobs to me. I don't care, you know, and it's just desert way out there. And I go, where is this chicken farm everybody keeps worrying about? And I go, oh, wait, who gives a crap, you know? So the thing is that I'm going, you know, the price is going to go down. So Donna and I are seriously looking there. Another one that we looked at was Young, Arizona. Out in the middle of the forest in Gila County, between Globe, Miami, and Payson, in there's a little bitty town out in the middle of nothing, paved roads and everything, but it's dirt fire roads coming down from the highway from Payson, Christopher Creek around in there, and up from Globe. It's dirt roads to get into the town, but it was a Mormon community founded way back in the day. So there's a bunch of land in there that we've been looking at, because when it goes to zombie apocalypse, the boys will be taking care of themselves there. But when you look at these places, what do you see? You start looking at the demographics, it's a vast majority of the people live on subsistence of pension, welfare, or they got government jobs. And what happens is these communities, so many people in the government know that they're there, they're moving there. And then they have kids, they don't go out, there's not that many jobs, if you don't work for the government, you're on some kind of assistance or whatever. Then they build up and they mortgage their property, the next generation, and then it goes to crap again, and it goes through this cycle again. Well, it's going through that cycle now. So while Keith is doing it, he spends all his time driving up on the rim, doing and marking these properties. I know this because he deals with Donna and researching them and buying them and offering and putting and kind of dealing with this stuff. I just don't have time to do it and didn't have the inclination, but now I'm starting to get more to do that. I don't want to take all this time, spend it on someplace else when I could have just done this, got it for a fraction of whatever, and peace. But what do I want to do? 20 acres of we're all going to have a libertarian community of the collective of I'm king? You don't want me as your king. You want to be your own king. So what we're learning as we're learning it, I wanted to share it with you. This is just an inkling of quit being slaves, in my opinion. Thanks, guys.
How about that today, huh?
You look at that, you will pull the ticket out of there, please.
Gonna draw for winners of the book selection and movie selection over there.
This is for the drawing for the books over here in the corner. I gotta put on my glasses. Okay, the number is 7835. 7835. Your first choice on the book.
If I can find it, I'll give it to you.
That was big. I got 836.
You'll draw one? Okay, second chance at the book. 7852.
7852. Got one over here, one more. 7839. 7839. Third set in the book, whatever's left. And we thank all of you for coming, and as far as I know, we'll have a breakfast club meeting the first Saturday of next month.
All right, thank you.
Have a good one.